appreciate all the blessings God has given me, and I want to repay it to you like this. Clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Introducing. This is the joint where we give shout outs to all the peeps, you know what I'm saying? You know we couldn't do this joint without spreading some love to the ones. Yo, check it. Leah. If I just ruled the world, I would give y'all everything. Yes, we going out. We going out just like that. Yeah. We going out. We going out just like that. Yeah. This is kind of like a prayer going out to all the peeps close to me and dear to me, the ones that's been there for my whole life, the ones that came later in my life. Yeah, I appreciate.
That's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the shit out. That's when
God has given me.
Yes. Yo, last night was incredible. It was incredible. You know, congrats to Kamala Harris. Although this is not winning the election, she sure did put the slap down on Donald Trump. She put the slap down on Donald Trump last night. So congratulations to Kamala Harris. And also, you know, it's interesting because the details behind it. She came in late, right? Trump was debating Biden. They started calling Biden old. Biden listened to some of the criticisms, and of course Biden is old. I mean, it's obvious he's old, but at that time it wasn't so easy to know if he's able to govern later. That's a different decision, you know. And he did quite well, but he stepped down. Kamala Harris stepped up, who is the logical next person because obviously she's the vice president. She has the experience, unless you think being a vice president is sitting at work, eating donuts, sitting back in a chair, doing nothing like Donald Trump. You know, it takes a competent person to lead. Everybody leaves there with gray hair. If you didn't leave there with gray hair or worse off, something's wrong with you. You know, you have a special kind of something that's not normal. That's, you know, and in Trump's case, he does in some kind of way. But congratulations to all the debate teams that Kamala Harris participated in during her, you know, time at Howard University or in school. You know, congratulations to all her peers that know her record, and have said for the longest time, all you have to do is know her record. And then people go out and skip over her record because she's but a woman, because she's of how she looks, her color. People underestimated Kamala Harris. That's the point. And Kamala Harris, what did she do? How did she respond? How did Trump catch some of these?
That's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the shit out. That's when
he caught one. And again, and another, and another, and another. He caught a few. Trump caught a few. Hey, Andre, I'm sorry, I'm late. He caught a few of those. Only, you know what? And she did it with style, too. But nonetheless, let's play some of this.
President Donald Trump.
Even starting from the top, she took command. Let's go.
Kamala Harris. What's up? Good debate.
Yeah, you see, she had to go all the way over to greet him because he's like a troll, just trolling up. Let's see here. What is he, scared? Was he scared? He's scared. This guy is scared. Look at that. He's scared. He came out the gate slow. He came out the gate last. Like, he came out the gate uncertain. Absolutely. Check this out. He's uncertain. I wish they could have showed me his face right here, because I could see Kamala and she's looking very, very aggressive on it, on the job, right? She came for the debate so much that she had to walk all the way across the stage to the other side to shake a man's hand who, I have to say, she's better than me. I won't say never, but damn. Is this like the death blow? I mean, do you shake the man's hand? Is it because like you shake his hand and that's the death blow? Is that what Trump is so like scared about? You know, maybe he knows about that. I'm gonna shake his hand before I send him where he needs to go. Any case, Kamala Harris walks all the way across the stage to greet Trump, who seems like he's about to fall out at that second at least.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's
After he done said all this stuff, you know, he said a load, boy.
wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that.
You know what? I like how she spun their question, because the media had the nerve to ask one of those Trump talking points, and she deconstructed it and added some purpose to it. The opportunity to talk about her platform, what she wants to do.
Young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after...
Which is basically a sales tax, you know, in any case, on the public. I mean, economists have already said that the tariffs only produce the result of higher prices. You will pay higher, because think about this. You're not going to just replace overnight what a country like China can produce. It doesn't produce everything that the U.S. produces. No, because that wouldn't make sense, would it? No, that wouldn't. Not in business. So we produce some things better, and we produce them and sell them to other people. Well, China produces some things, and they sell them to other people. Do we want to produce the same thing they produce? Not unilaterally, no. But in this case, Trump wants to do that, and he's trying to act like a tariff is not going to result in increases in prices. That's ridiculous.
75 years pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon, and you see what's happening.
Where's the data? See, that's the difference. When the government has to release data, it has to be concise. It actually has to be real. It has to be done in an ethical way. Trump just produces data out of the air. A loose news article here that the sources can't be verified, that the police in the local town say it didn't happen. Yes, that's what's going on with that. That's crazy. But
and you see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out.
You know what? We're also at our highest level of technology. I mean, we have cameras on everything. Where is the video footage of all of this? We have video footage of September, right? I mean, of January, 6, right? We have that. But what's he talking about? Where's the video footage of all these people doing all of these things? And Trump loves to talk about violence that immigrants do. But does he care at all about the violence that Americans do, American citizens do to each other? Isn't that far greater? How does that weigh out? Don't we already have a problem with, even if we don't discuss, even if we leave immigration out of it, we already have a problem of mass shootings in our own population. Yeah. Is that ever going to get dealt with?
Out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
I sent in for my ballot just maybe 5 days ago, 4 or 5 days ago. I can't remember how many days back. But yeah, I sent in for my ballot, for my overseas voting card, right? And, everybody needs to vote. This is the time. Vote. Anything that you want, believe you can vote for it. Vote for it. Don't be the voice that has that gets less buzz out there. There's more everyday people than there are people like Donald Trump. Kamala Harris makes closer at her whole life to the amount of money that a person like myself in the middle class would have been making, rather than Donald Trump. Donald Trump's never made middle class money. He's always had it given to him.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million.
How many minutes does it take for Donald Trump to get heated? How many minutes? Let me see. They walked on stage. This is minute 649. Minute 649, you can tell he's starting to ratchet up because, he's getting hypertension or something. I don't know what it is, but it's starting to build.
People died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give
Actually, to be honest, everybody thought it was possible. That's one of the things that the military can do and the National Guard can do. They can participate in efforts like what we experienced having to go through COVID, But this guy is, he described it in a totally different way. He doesn't describe it like it's the American people doing it. He describes it like it's him doing it personally. And he's not. He's nowhere near it. And he even got criticized himself, in his administration during that time for things that weren't being done adequately. Let me check into that while this plays.
Credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Yeah. Now check this out. Donald Trump was criticized for his COVID rollout. When COVID hit, he was criticized, said to have had a delayed response, conflicting communications, political pressure, and public health officials undermining the health experts. He was criticized for that. Listen, conflicting communications, mixed messages on public health measures, confusion around hydroxychloroquine. I mean, this is Trump. delayed response, initial downplaying of the virus. Early in the pandemic, President Trump and his administration were accused of downplaying the severity of COVID-19. Late implementation of the testing and preparedness. There were widespread complaints about the delay in rolling out the widespread testing of COVID. Yo, people must have amnesia or something, but Trump was heavily criticized for his rollout of the COVID plan. In fact, his rollout may be in part the main contributor, or at least actually it just may be the main contributor to the economy that tanking that Biden and Harris had to save in the first place. People are having some sort of amnesia. It's because Donald Trump runs this brainwash program where they just repeat the lies over and over and over, and people that don't want to do their due diligence don't do it and actually believe this guy. They believe a dude that lost a civil case regarding sexual assault. That's who they believe. They believe the guy that said Jeffrey Epstein was, a very good friend of his for 15 years. He's been on that airplane more than how many people? A lot of people. He's said to have had other contacts with Jeffrey Epstein and some young girls, minors. Yes, apparently it's been alleged that Trump used to fly some girls from Mar-a-Lago to New Jersey. And I believe Epstein was there, or Epstein used to fly girls to Trump, something like that in New Jersey. Check it out. There's something to what I just said. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's about young girls being flown directly to Trump or to his hotel. So in any case, Kamala's doing well, but it's about to get heated, y'all. Check this out. Trump's temperature, she did this so smooth. Watch.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The vice president brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on.
Tariffs is a big part of Donald Trump's one-track mind.
To the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation.
You got to think about when he did the China tariffs, too. You got to think about this. When he implemented them, this was around COVID. The economy is still trying to bounce back. And what did he try to do? Tank the economy. That's what Trump tried to do, tank the United States economy. If you remember when Biden took office, he said, and he's been saying this all the time, the U.S. Economy is too big to fail, right? And what he means is that it literally is big. It's huge. For you to crash it, it's a total disaster. It's a hell of an event to a lot of people, you see. And Trump, he tried to do things to tank it. He could only get a little bit, but enough for people to feel it, enough to put a scare out there. But he definitely did all the wrong things regarding an economy. If you want to save the people from COVID, if you want to save the people from inflation, if you want to save the people from the economy, from the debt being raised, Trump just went all out.
They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. "Thank you, President Xi," exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country.
See, Trump, he has he's woven this kind of concept to where if you want to deal with the economy, or if you want to deal with helping people, you have to attack something. Like you have to attack immigrants. You have to issue trade tariffs. He gives people the impression that you have to do those things first before you can get to helping folks or dealing with the everyday folks' demands, right? The things that they talk about, dealing with the things that everyday people find important. Trump thinks that you have to do a tariff or some other, big act to accommodate this. When no, the U.S. GDP is huge. It's huge. I don't even know how many trillions now. What, 27 trillion a year? Isn't that what it is? Something like that. And it's only been going up every year. Every year. It's gone up more under the Biden administration than it has Trump's. But the point is that money is not missing. So why do you always need to take these other steps first? Why are all the dealing, in terms of dealing with the everyday people, why is that always connected to something else? That doesn't make sense. Because if you want to go to war, it's not connected to anything else. It's defense. You have to do it now. Some things have to be dealt with now. And the American people, a lot of their issues have never been dealt with that way. Like now. have to be dealt with now. They're always connected to something else. You have to stop the border crisis. You have to stop, fighting Ukraine. It's like, what are you talking about? The U.S. has trillions upon trillions of dollars GDP. What's up, Donnie? Every year. So dealing with the everyday person's problems, that is not an issue. You don't have to deal with any other problem really to deal with that. No problems that are indirectly related. Only issues that are directly related. You know what I mean? So the way Trump does this lying is ridiculous, but I'm gonna let him talk out. I want to get to the part where he gets heated and Kamala starts going in on him really hard. So let's go. Then I'm gonna play some other reactions from the major media, some of the fact checking that they did, because we all know that Trump had to lie. He lied through his teeth so many times you can't even stop the video to address it.
With policy that's insane, almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
Let me show you why I stopped paying for all my other sample libraries. This is our...
Excuse me. Here we go.
Turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 50.
Now, don't they correct him right here? Let's see.
52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years.
Look, why does this is another funny thing. He's talking about people voting on it now on the national level, like that's a big deal. Why is that a big deal when the Supreme Court exists? You see what I mean? And that's what time of day we're dealing with here today. We're dealing with the courts and the Supreme Courts with every single thing that gets passed. That's how the political situation is these days. So it's not just this thing about voting. It's this thing about taking up time and also knowing what is the normal means path to go to resolve these issues. Is it voting or is it the courts? You see, do we have to vote for judges? Yes, we also have to vote for judges. So there's no one trick pony to getting stuff done. That's a misnomer. It has to go through separate branches of government and the courts. You see what I mean? And if any one of them teeter-totter at any time in any different way, you get the result of it. So Trump is selling this ridiculousness. It's oversimplification with him. Too much of it.
Legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all.
But he's getting heated now, y'all. Let me see. It is 15 minutes in, y'all. Now you can see his temperature is raising. His temperature is raising.
All wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court.
You see, he did that again. It's not tied up. But what did he say? It's not tied up in the federal government. Was it?
Each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government.
It's not tied up in the federal government. Well, what about Trump lawyers tying shit up in the courts? That's passed Congress. That's passed the Senate. That's been signed by the president. The Black Farmer and Minority Rescue Plan 2021 was signed by Biden. It went through. Where's it been held up since 2021? In the courts by Republican, basically lawyers filing claims across the country to stop it in different states where farmers would have benefited from that. You know, did you forget? That's a big story out there. And Trump, you know, obviously he's not going to promote it, but it's $4 billion to these farmers is being held up. It's for racial discrimination against farmers. Giving out loans, the federal government gave out loans. The people that administered it practiced racial discrimination against the farmers. Yes, so for many years, decades, farmers, certain farmers didn't get any of those federal government programs, help, didn't get access to any of those funds or help like other farmers did. That was the whole point of the act, of the rescue plan. It's held up in court. You still don't have a verdict, 3 years. And he's talking about something being held up in the federal government. It's the court. See, he's manipulative.
I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies.
Right. But
Madam Vice President, I want to get your response.
Doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
you see, that was a lie. That was a lie. Flat out. National television. National television. You see, and guess who it's a lie about? It's a lie about women. Yes, it's a misogynistic lie. Essentially, he's going out there making up a story and then laying that at the feet of all women's health as an obstruction to their health rights. That's the guy, Donald Trump. He grabs them also, but he also tries to stop them from having freedoms, other freedoms.
Madam Vice President, want to get your...
Let me see here, Madam Vice President. Okay, so I can't wait till she's called Madam President.
Your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country.
Look at his face. He's the type of guy, he hates being told the truth to his face. Look, Trump could not win this debate either way. He couldn't win the debate either way, whether the microphones are on or whether the microphones are off. He just can't win because he's wrong and he's rotten. Look, he can't stand to listen to someone else tell him who he is. He's in agony right now. He's in agony. And what is he going to do when he gets his chance? Lash out. He's going to keep getting more heightened and more heightened and more. What do they call that? He's escalating the situation. Trump, watch, check this out on his own. He's not going to get hurt though. Like a lot of people get accused when they do that. But yeah.
You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular, the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are...
He's like, because we got what we wanted. Okay, so as soon as you get what you don't want, you'll be doing that, right? You'll be going back to the drawing board, back to Congress, back to the Senate, looking for another something done on the federal level. You know, that's such a lame excuse. If you are for this or are not for this, you know, this issue could have easily been resolved. It's not one or the other, the states or the federal government. They're supposed to link in some points, you know, and work in conjunction with each other also. That happens all the time, you know. So again, he's very divisive, but he just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. That's not how things work in reality. You know, the Republicans use the legal system. They use the voting system. So do Democrats. There's no difference. The only difference is the policies and what they're fighting for, you know. Look.
Voting, and it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far
you're right, you're definitely right. He let that one go. He let that one. Did you see his face? He was all like, just sit. He didn't know what to do with the words. I even think some of her words, because is this 1 minute? 1 minute is a long time to talk, especially when you make sense. She got a lot in there with her 1 minute. Trump, he ends up repeating himself. He's incoherent about what he's talking about. His messages don't stick. They're not deep messages that resonate. They're just like all over the place. You know, you never really know what Trump is talking about. And I even think Kamala Harris is speaking so clearly. Some of that, I think, got into his soul right there, to be honest, if he has a soul, you know, because he's a damn fool.
As far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50.
Why is it impossible for her to get the vote? Because she's a woman? Why is it impossible? Everything's impossible for somebody else except Trump. Trump is always talking about the impossible, and he never even does the possible. Who is Trump talking about? It's impossible. That's how things get done every day. That's how the border wall, bipartisan plan, the Border Act, the Bipartisan Border Act got passed. Bipartisan legislation in the Biden administration not long ago. Trump killed it because he didn't want it. He wanted it to last, or the chaos to last till the election time so he could run on that, But it's happening all the time. Biden's a Democratic president. Kamala Harris is a Democratic vice president. They got through the bill they got it through. So I don't get this, a deal for the border. It's Trump that killed it. So things are happening all the time. Things are getting done all the time. Some people make it hard, others make it easy, but things still get done. Could things get done easier? Yes. Could things get done better? Yes. But by who? Trump? Things can't get better with Trump.
50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think.
It didn't end up being a catastrophe. Republicans challenged it in the Supreme Court, in the courts. That's what they did. You see? How did the votes turn out? Republican or Democrat? Let me look this up anyway. Votes on student debt at the Supreme Court. I believe it's the Supreme Court. If not, it will be some courts. Let's see here. Right. Now, what was the vote? The vote on that, the forgiveness plan, debt forgiveness plan, right? August 2022. That's 2 years ago. Right. In June, the Supreme Court struck down Biden's student loan forgiveness in a 6-3. Right. Now let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. I'm pretty sure. What's the breakdown? Hold on. How come I didn't get an easier breakdown on this? I should have put justices. Let me see here. Okay, so that is about right. That's pretty much a party. That's party lines, pretty much. But let me get the exact list. That's 6. What is it? 6-4 or 6-3? Yeah, it's 6-3. Exactly. So what the hell is Trump talking about? What the hell is he talking about? So that whole thing is caught up. The debt forgiveness plan is caught up in, or it got shot down in court by Republican appointees to the Supreme Court. Y'all, you have to follow the details. That's essentially, or that is what happened, 6-3. You see, so Trump is telling people lies about how things get done every day in the United States of America, how business gets done. He's misrepresenting it greatly.
Probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea.
Want to know what else is held up in court? The forgiveness, the farmers, Black Farmers and Minorities Act, right? The one that's supposed to help them, or not reward them, but compensate them for decades of discrimination from farming loans in states. Yes, backed up by the federal government, dollar, money. You see, that's also held up, same Republican stuff, same Republican lines. You see, there's been a lot that's been held up with those kind of odds in the Supreme Court as of late, especially towards the everyday people, The courts is the thing to follow right now, even more than the split in the House or the Senate. Because no matter what gets done, they will have to go in the House and the Senate, or the president signs, no matter what act he signs, it has to go through the Supreme Court, or someone could challenge it on the Supreme Court level. And if there's more Supreme Court judges that are for Republican policies than Democrats, that's how things seem to happen right now. That's exactly how Trump got immunity also, because he's a Republican, and those Republicans helped, they were unethical. So a lot's going down in the courts. Trump apparently doesn't want you to know that it's Republican lawyers, Trump lawyers, MAGA lawyers in those courts, fighting those cases, making those cases.
Yeah. And how unfair that
and Republican judges seeing over the cases
would have been part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think
he didn't discuss it with J.D. He didn't discuss it with JD. Oh, really? Sounds like things aren't too well put together right now as far as like the centerpieces of the Trump campaign. Who the president is, who the vice president is, what they believe, what they don't believe, their platform, what their platform stands for. It seems to be like they have no message. Their message is all over the place. And what type of person answers the question that way? Look, he could have said it in any other way, but he just threw J.D. Vance under the bus. He just threw him under the bus. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. Well, I didn't.
In all fairness, there's nothing fair about this statement right here. He's throwing dude under the bus in broad daylight.
Discuss it with.
If I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view.
You don't mind, huh? You don't mind? Yeah, because you're on broad daylight television,
But I think he was speaking about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't.
Yeah, really convenient. You don't mind, huh?
We don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get.
You see how he circled back to that bigoted statement? He spent minutes. That's where he started before with this. She's not going to get it because she's never going to get it stuff. It's just a fact because Trump says it. I mean, and you're talking to a go-getter, a person that's gotten everything they've ever, professionally gone after. I mean, how many times has Kamala Harris been elected to a seat, a post, a position? You know, it's her whole career. Vice president isn't the first election rodeo for her. The president won't be the first election rodeo for her, unlike Donald Trump. It's his second, but that's the only experience he has with elections. Kamala Harris has 30 years of experience. She's been elected to all those posts. So what is it? State prosecutor, state's attorney, all these different posts, right? Then senator, right? And now vice president, and then now president. That's a lot of elections.
Get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter.
They can never get it approved until we vote and deal with the Supreme Court and make sure that there's equal representation on the Supreme Court at all times. Like, there can't be any of this Republican stuff like we're more judges, so we're going to make this exception in this law this time, and because this is a Democrat law, we're going to strike it down. That's what happens in the Supreme Court. That's why pretty much Democrats often get blamed. You know, there's a segment of the Black population that says Democrats never did anything. Well, if you follow the courts and follow the language in the court proceedings and the cases, what they're about, you will see that there's a lot in there that's going on. I mean, the Black farmers thing is one of them. The student debt is not in the name, but if your bill in 2021, which is when they first came into office, if the first bill that you pass through the Congress, through the Senate, signed by the president, gets challenged by the Supreme Court and shot down because it uses the language Black, then why would you proceed until they're finished? They haven't even settled the case yet. The courts haven't even settled that case yet with the language of Black. The Biden administration is waiting for that. That means everything in terms of the law, right? So all the other bills had to go without anything Black on it because it's going to get held up in the court, and it's the Supreme Court justices, the Republican ones that are doing it. It's their decision. They're waiting now on the Black farmer and minorities package. You know, it's been held up. This is the third year now. So don't be duped by people like Trump. It might sound a little complex, but it's not that complex if you really spend a little bit of time trying to understand the process. It's definitely there and it's working, but you have to know how it works to do something about it. So the next thing on the list is redo the Supreme Court. That should be the next thing on the Democrats' list and Republicans' list, because you shouldn't want any judge that thinks this dude particularly should have immunity to crimes. And they did it for him because the law doesn't even work anyway. That affects everything. That one decision they did just destroys so much. It's ridiculous in itself, but it will get, something's going to happen on the courts level. Watch. That's the next grounds.
What she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why In every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact,
watch how he explains how good of a leader he's been. He can't even explain it. Look.
When they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask.
Because he says so.
Ask. Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia.
Why is that a choice for any other person except the person who actually is having the health issue? How can another person decide what another person should be doing when it's based on details that you don't have? You don't know. Every abortion is not about the same thing. It's not just one type of abortion for this reason. Boom. It's loads of different things. It's just generally called abortion, but really it's a lot of different things going on with human bodies, human, development, how it affects the mothers that are carrying the child also, what relation that has with the child, that's very complex. So really the person that's best suited to know what to do is the person that's going through it and their doctor. That's the whole point of it. You don't know. You shouldn't know. You can't anticipate. You can't guess. You can put limits, but you don't have to put lies on it,
The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions.
And you know what? The Republicans even bragged about it publicly. It's all public record. That's the crazy part about it. So how can you care about a border bill when it's only for political gain to win an election? What about the years when there's no election? Do you care about the border problem then? Trump didn't. Trump wanted it to last. He shot down that bill. They talked about it publicly, the Republicans. I forget who the rep is, the majority whip is or whatever. They bragged about this stuff, like it makes them macho, or it makes them, more of a man to more tough to shoot down a bill that somebody else gets passed through or leads through. Even the Republicans were leading that bill, and he shot it down because the Democrats were willing to sign it, because Biden was willing to sign it. Trump got it shot down. That's the height of hater right there. And anybody that's looking at Donald Trump like he gives a damn about the wall, this is what you deserve.
That's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the shit out. That's when.
Because he don't. He's proven that openly. He's proven it. Yeah, back to Kamala Harris. She's whipping his ass, and it's going to get worse because now Trump just totally unravels. It is at 26 minutes in, so 30 minutes. Yep, watch. He's going to go ballistic, and then we're going to go to the fact checkers. Let's see here.
Who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people.
See, look at this. What's the time? Look, it's not even 30 minutes and Trump is unraveling right here. Now he's just going to get unhinged. You see, that's everything about his personality disorder. It's predictable. It's predictable. I mean, even yesterday, I predicted after 30 minutes, Trump is going to go ballistic. He's going to lose all senses. You know, he's going to double down, triple down, quadruple down on anything that he hears. I mean, he's going to, pretty soon, he may as well talk about cannibalism in the U.S. I mean, he is talking about that. He's suggesting it. He's suggesting the most odd things. And it's just because he's losing the argument. It's not because he has a good argument. It's only because he's losing it. Look. This is
millions and millions of
Kamala Harris laughed. Look,
people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
What? This is ridiculous. Get your ballot. If you're not, get your ballot. That's all I gotta say. Get your ballot. Make sure you vote blue this election. And vote blue everywhere. Because all those ghost stories they've been selling people, don't believe them. Don't believe them. This is the dude. Look, they just repeat things. Yes, Venezuelan gangs. There's Venezuelans, yeah, here and there, just like there's other groups of people. But to typecast it as gangs invading, they make it up. Cannibalism. They're eating dogs. They're eating dogs. Sean Hannity is a second-generation American, but yet he talks like he's been around since 1780. Trump and these guys too. Don't let these guys talk you out of your heritage, because these guys make it sound like they've been there a long time. It's their country. They're willing to do anything for it. No, there's a lot of us, our family's been there for a long time, longer than that, since the beginning. Yes. And we need to not just be reactionary. We need to be knowledgeable about what's really going on, because these guys will talk you out of being American, and this is how he does it. It's crazy. There's Americans that will listen to this and believe it.
Eating Aurora, Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as the rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I said.
What is he? Look, he's totally unhinged right now. Y'all, he's flipping topics. He's flipping topics from left to right, anything. I mean, this, of course, this would be called a double dribble. You know what I'm saying? Trump, he's walking the ball. You know what I'm saying? Not even bouncing it, damn near. You know what I'm saying? Just doing anything he wants on the court. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to make any sense communicating with people whatsoever. It is 30 minutes into his bit, and it's not even 30 minutes. It's 28 minutes, and he's totally unhinged. All I got to do is say, Kamala Harris, excellent job breaking this clown down. People underestimated her. To those that underestimated her, especially the ones with the misogynistic tropes,
that's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the shit out. That's when.
Yes. That's actually what you should look forward to getting, because she did the exact opposite. You should run from Kamala Harris. All of y'all that hated on her, as a matter of fact, for being a lady, the misogynistic tropes, you should be very, very afraid right now, because you deserve every bit of the karma. The people that went after her family, just her roots, who she is. You see how cowardly Trump was when he was asked about that? You see how cowardly? I don't care about it. I don't care about her roots. I don't care about who her family is. I don't care about that. Yeah. But your whole campaign was spreading it on the internet. You were caught red-handed. It's your money paying for that stuff to spread. It's called disinformation, and he aligned himself with other parties that spread that stuff, maybe crafted that information, false information about her background. You see, Kamala Harris went in there and tore Donald Trump up into smithereens. He cannot intellectually handle her. He is inferior to her on the debate stage. In terms of knowledge of laws, acts, he is inferior. He can't keep up. She runs circles around Donald Trump. She dropped the bomb on his ass.
They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
Just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the.
Look, the police, the city manager, the police, they say there's no evidence of that. And he's like, we'll find out. But who's the we? Who's the we that's going to find out? The city manager already found out. The police already found out. They did their job. They heard something and they went and investigated it because people said, hey, can you investigate this? They went and they said there's nothing to it. And look at Donald Trump. He wants to believe it. There's a difference between wanting to believe something is real and knowing if something is real. Donald Trump is out of his mind.
The rest of what you've heard.
He's quoting this crap.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Is this dude?
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier.
Hold on. Is there some sort of phenomenon? Because Trump lies so much. mean, he makes some outlandish. Oh, right. Well, hold on. What are they talking about? Right. Well, it's not right because Biden got more than him. So how is he? See, I just had to double check that because some. He prefers to say he got more votes than anyone else ever, you know? But how is that possible when somebody else got more than you and it was your opponent? You see how ridiculous that listen to this.
Here, so let's get back to your deportation.
And he
says this.
have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far.
He got more votes than any Republican in history. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of. Well, who cares? That doesn't matter. That's an oversimplification. So what? You got more votes than any Republican in history. Who's he talking to? That's interesting. He's talking to his base because he's trying to explain how he's losing and it's okay. Well, I don't get it, you know?
In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Aha! By any sitting president. What does that? Okay, I see. So he's saying while he was president, he got more votes than any other sitting president, but he's not saying he got more votes than any other person running for president. He's not saying that because that would be Biden. I don't understand it. But in any case, I think it's about to be Kamala Harris that's about to get more votes than any sitting vice president, you know, and any other person. I think it's probably going to be. Let's see.
Let me continue on immigration. It
Register to vote
was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation.
I got my overseas. I registered overseas, so I'm getting my overseas ballot.
Proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher. Because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for
the place that he courts. I mean, he you know, you can't have it both ways. So on one hand, you're saying people are fleeing Venezuela. Why are they fleeing Venezuela? Is it because it's good, the situation in Venezuela, or is it because it's bad? And what do you do to resolve that issue? You know, he never speaks in detail about any topic. He only generalizes and gets people, more people riled up over something, and they don't know what to do or what they should be riled up about. They just get riled up and frustrated, but they don't know what to demand or to change or what actions to take.
For them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall.
What does he mean by despite whatever numbers they make up? He's the one making up the numbers. It's,
Let in. And all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof.
Crime is down everywhere else in the world, and crime is up in the United States. You see how simple that idea is? Everywhere else, up. Only here, down. Now make a decision. But does the data really show that? I doubt that very, very seriously. So much that you should prove me wrong by showing it to me, because I have never seen any data like that. Things are hard in many places in the world, whether it's about crime or not. There's a lot of aspects to society you have to think about when you make your choices. But Trump, again, is saying a lot and ain't saying a damn thing at the same time, taking up a lot of people's time talking, not making a lot of sense in what he's saying.
Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Yes, he did.
Coming jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich. Coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
Weaponized, please.
What?
This is the one that weaponized,
Look.
not me. She
See
weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of.
cut in. Look,
Vice
he just cut in. He cut in over on them, yo. That's crazy.
President Harris, in your last run for president.
Weaponized, please.
We got
This is the one that weaponized.
Your last
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris.
She called Vice President Harris's name, and Donald Trump is about to cut into this. So just cut it right off.
In your last run for president.
Weaponized, please.
We got
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your response?
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over.
Sorry about that. I'm on mute. Now, I was saying, I did look it up now. I was correct. The Nord Stream pipeline is paid for by Russia and other European partners, including Germany, Netherlands, France, and some others, right? Now, so when Donald Trump goes out there and talks about this stuff, he only does it for his own good, for his own use, because when you look at the information he's talking about, it's totally different. You see, he's not even looking into the stuff himself, the stuff he's saying to verify. It's totally made up stuff that he's saying. Check it out. And he constantly does this.
They got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened.
Am I still muted? Can you hear me now, y'all? Am I still muted? Put a, if you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat. Yeah, sorry about that. I went on mute. I don't know if it's the connection or something happened where I did go on mute. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So again, he's rambling and he's throwing out all kinds of facts, and you have to research them because he's throwing them out so fast. But let's let him rip some more.
The gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy.
Right. Okay. So they're talking about energy. Kamala Harris is absolutely right. When you're up in the game, you invest in the game. And that means you invest in the future game as well to stay ahead of the curve. Right? Now, diversifying the energy, how does that affect everyday Americans' lives? Well, it brings the cost of goods down, because part of the whole idea is to bring prices down. That's why you want to diversify your options. You see, so they can compete against each other over who can bring the price of energy to its lowest, who can provide it at its lowest and its best. You see, now, right now, attached to the cost of your foods and every other goods, shit is being shipped around in trucks using gas. Even gas is being shipped around by trucks using gas. What sense does that make? And anytime the oil folks want to manipulate your currency, they can, because they got you by the kahunas, because you have one thing that you have chosen to be involved in every single aspect of life. So diversifying the energy brings the cost down and it keeps you ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. And when do you invest in it? When you're ahead of the game already. And the United States economically is ahead of the game. So when you're talking about energy, you're not just talking about something for the next 4 years. You're talking about something to keep you ahead, your children ahead in the future. Even you might experience the good. You see what I mean? It also means jobs. New industry means jobs, maybe even better trained jobs. You see, who do you think is going to build those electronic stuff and implement it and all of that stuff? You see what I mean? But he's not even, this is where the media really has to cut into when they talk about energy. A lot they don't discuss just how it affects everyday Americans' lives. The place where I live, there's a lot of electric cars, there's a lot of electric stations, and there's a lot of different types of electric vehicles, bus, vans, and I'm pretty sure pretty soon it's going to be, whatever the big trucks are too, are going to be electric. See, but the United States is the last nation that shouldn't be trying to invest in diversifying its energy. That's ridiculous. What's that about? That in itself is a corrupt thought to think we don't want to diversify our enemy. That in itself smells of corruption. I wonder whose idea that was. The oil people? Probably.
To come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it be crazy if you could create voiceovers that sound like a raspy old man?
All right, let's see here. Yeah, I am seeing this right off of the net.
An election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered.
No, he doesn't regret a damn thing. I can answer that for him. The answer is no. Now let him continue.
Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. What? It's a disgrace.
What? Yo! What the hell did he say? What the hell did he say? Ashley Babbitt. That's the woman who died at the... Hold on. Let me just make sure here. January 6th, fatally shot by an officer attempting to, Now, she was attempting, that's the lady who was attempting to breach the chamber door. After they had already marched through the rest of the Capitol, she wanted to get into the last barrier, right? And she was breaking the door, trying to get through the door, right? And they got to her. They defended the chamber. And Trump just said that was a disgrace. So he called the police officers, the Capitol Police, and he called them a disgrace. You see, so he has a history of doing this to people that serve, and it's not the first time he's done that. He don't give a damn about Ashley either. Exactly, Donnie. He don't give a damn about Ashley either. He's a manipulative type, a sociopath. This dude is weird. He can just come up with any random lie anytime he wants. But he called, here's his own words. It's crazy. It's his own words.
Ed was killed peacefully and patriotically. I just said a thing that isn't covered. peacefully and patriotically. I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot.
He said nobody on the other side was killed. It was officers who died from that event. Let me see here. Let me see here. Yeah, they died after due to serious health consequences resulting from that day. So what is he talking about? They didn't die on the premises, but from their injuries, they died days later or moments later, after days or I don't know how much time, but officers died, so this is the craziest statement to ever hear, see, and it shows you police officers, he's not down with the police only if he does something that he approves of, then he's all in. But if it's not that for that reason, he doesn't give a damn about you. He threw those police officers under the rug in all aspects. The ones who died, he tried to pretend like they didn't die from that shit. Then he tried to say it was a disgrace that the police officer shot her when they used extreme restraint. Even, they were the heroes. They were the brave ones. They were the minority. How are you a minority with a mob and you use restraint with your weapon, your pistol, your gun on an attack where people are like, hang Mike Pence, where's Nancy Pelosi? We want to kill you. This is Trump.
By an act peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. This officer was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's a...
You see how quickly he just jumped subjects?
We didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and her? It's a disgrace. But we didn't do... Have never, ever was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one of those, David,
Trump is trying to destroy United States relations, geopolitical relations anywhere, South America, Central America, Europe, Eastern Europe, Africa, the Middle East. He's just trying to set fires everywhere he possibly can, as quick as possible.
When are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. Might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their job. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want
That's
Vice
when I
President
smack
Harris
the
to
shit
respond
out
here.
you. I smack.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's
That's when I
remember
smack the shit out you. I
that
smack.
when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go
That's
back.
when I
We're
smack
not
the
going
shit
back.
out you. I
It's
smack
time to
the shit
turn the
out. That's when-
page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just.
What do y'all think about that? I mean, this dude promised a bloodbath. The founder, or what is it, the Project 2025, I think the director or something like that, one of the officers said also similar comments about it would be bloodless if the Democrats allow it. These people issue blood, they issue threats of violence as a norm, as a normal way to communicate, which basically means they're forcing everybody else to take a similar stance towards them. Like they're trying to force people to, make harsh lines of division, because they're the ones using the threat of violence. You see, but what do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? Like, do you think that's okay? Because, it is inciting a civil war, essentially. What he's trying to do. When they say this bloodbath, these things, they're trying to incite a civil war. I mean, what's your thoughts? Let me see here. Johnny, what? He says the context is off. Yeah, but exactly. They just spit it out there at any time anyway. So what different, but you're right though. They spin it off like that. The context is off, but we get the message. We get the message overall. I mean, they're inciting violence because we've seen that speech and we've seen people take actions based on that kind of speech. So, we know they mean that. They may be stupid as hell while making those threats, but they believe the threats, You know, they might think that left people, or quote unquote what they call the left, are just some people just going to sit down and let these people commit genocide against us just because of who we are. Of course, they out of their damn minds, but a lot of them believe that, which is why they talk this stuff openly. You know, it's ridiculous. I mean, you're in a country that has more money than it's ever had, more power than it's ever had, and yet there's people fighting over petty stuff, things that don't even make sense anymore. Our country, we send people to space, you know, and yet these people are fighting over stupid stuff. They want to communicate and talk about stupid stuff. They don't want to talk about the fact that, you know, in a lot of Western countries like the one I live in, you have a child, every family gets a year off for each child paid. They don't want to talk about rights that taxes provide. Universal health care. Countries like the ones I live in have universal health care already built into the tax system. They don't want to talk about that. You see? Oh, it's my neighbor. It's making some noises. Hold on. Yeah, they don't want to talk about unemployment, union jobs. You know, they don't want to talk about that. I mean, here at McDonald's, you work at McDonald's, even though that's about to close, but there's a lot of other stores. They're all union jobs. They have standards in terms of how they compensate their employees and the employee benefits. Everybody gets 5-week paid vacation in the tax code. They don't want to talk about that. Pension in the tax code. They don't want to talk about that, though. Trump don't want to talk about that for American citizens. Although every other Western nation pretty much has stronger social democratic values than the U.S. The U.S. is one of the biggest, allies, yet they don't have that for their own citizens. That's strange. American citizens should want to know that. And American citizens should know when something like that, like what we have in other Western countries, is being blocked in the courts by Republican judges. You would want to know about that so you could change it and have those benefits for yourself. And you would want to be part of that conversation, and you would want to vote because you're voting on your ass. Your vote is about the quality of your life. What's going to happen to you. It could be a good thing, but it could also be a sentence if you don't involve yourself and if you're not aware. But it should be painfully obvious that this fool doesn't give a damn about nothing or anybody but himself. Do not believe a word. There's always a catch to what he's saying.
Follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where Bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be...
That sentence make no sense. Look at how he formulated that.
About sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. They bring all of this stuff up. Yeah. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the...
What the hell? I tell you what, you asked me about the Capitol. Why are there millions of people coming in over the border? The Capitol is nowhere near the border. The Capitol's in the center of the northern and the southern states, or southern geography. I won't say states because I hate to make it sound like, there's diversity greater than north and south. There's other things, but This guy is crazy. He just went from the Capitol to what's up, MF Jessa? He just went from the Capitol to to the border in one sentence. Then I don't know how he's going to relate them. You know, he's probably going to relate them to the way he does everybody. Yeah. I just dropped the link anyway for anybody who wants to hop up. I want to play some of the criticism, but anybody want to hop up and give their own criticism? Come on, I got about maybe a half an hour more. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so let's hear some more of this dude.
The southern border. How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad. It's so ridiculous.
What is going on? What's up with this dude's listen to these sentences. Okay, get a diss, but formulate the diss. Formulate it. Use a couple of more seconds. Breathe, Donald. Breathe, brother. You ain't breathing too well.
Down, I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills.
What is going on? He's all over the place. Look, they already had a bill on the border. He told them to kill the bill. It was a bipartisan bill. It was led by a Republican. He told them to kill it. And now he's saying, you could do that if you wanted to. Oh.
They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election.
You make it sound like a bill takes 1 day to make, just 1 day and sign it. It can happen just like that, instantly. Bingo.
You repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about it. An election is fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders. And we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm. Lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges.
I have to keep this mute on. I'm sorry.
Many of them
no judge looked at it
and said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President.
He doesn't make statements that you can combat because they're not complete statements. You know, it is the only thing he really gets out is everything is failing, nation in decline. But when you ask him about the details, he can't go through the details.
Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States.
Say that again.
Term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
So
let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at.
Look at his face. Look at his face. You know, he doesn't look like a person who's, upset about allegations being made about him. These are horrible allegations, and look at his face. Yeah, this is something.
Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world...
Look, he said the man, a strong man, smart. He said the same thing about the president of China, saying that he controls them with a, iron fist or something. A billion plus people. Called that smart also.
Blowing up. 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respect. The pipeline going.
He said
Biden put it back, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline.
It's all over the place. What's up, bro? You there, dressed up?
Hey, what's happening?
Welcome. Yeah, what's on your mind? What you got to
not,
say about this?
not much, man. I watched most of it, and from what I could tell, it seemed like she was fighting off of her back foot the whole time,
Oh,
right?
really?
Well, yeah. When I say that, I mean she didn't get a chance to really land a lot of her shots. Like, that both sides have their talking points that they're supposed to hit, and she seemed more like she didn't get to hit all of her talking points because she got more focused on trying to reply to him, and I think that did not work in her favor.
Hey, you got your camera? Can you put your camera on?
I can't right now. I'm out.
Okay. Yeah, but go ahead. I'm hearing you.
Oh, yeah. So I was thinking, it seemed more like she was more focused and spent a whole lot more of her time kind of replying to him. And by doing that, she allowed him to control the pace, and she allowed him to kind of control the topics that they had to talk about. And as long as he can do that, he can be a whole lot more aggressive. He can be a whole lot more active, and it'll appear as though he's winning the debate. And I think just as far as appearances, I think he put on a show in terms of a debate. The content or the actual material that they were talking about, that's to everybody's opinion. If you disagree with him, that's one way to look at it. But if you just look at it objectively like a debate, to his base, he whooped on her. To the people that already support him, to the people that already back him, he stomped all over her. And I think what they both needed to achieve was different.
Do you support him?
No, flat out. I'll say that. I don't back him at all.
I'm just because I want to qualify that with something. Go ahead.
No, but I don't support him at all. But what I see is I can sit back and look at two people having a debate, and I can tell you where the momentum is. And he had the momentum because, like I said, he controlled the pace.
Well, it seemed like your audio is going out now for a second, but I myself
was get off his talking points and get his people that already agree with him to continue to agree with him. And I think she had a very different objective. I think what she needed to do was to gain some new support. She needed to get some people that were maybe undecided or on the fence. She needed to garner some more support for herself. And I don't think she was able to do that necessarily.
I don't know, man. I mean,
so I think they both have very different objectives or different motives. And, I think it's just, I think you can see, you can kind of see how it went. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't agree myself, but I think she did her job, man. I think she destroyed.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Am I muted or you muted?
Are you muted? Because can y'all hear me? If you can hear me, press
Mic
1.
check.
Yeah, I can hear you. But Dreadson, let me say this.
Hello.
Dreadson, hold on. Let me put him on mute because I can see he got some audio issues. Yeah, I can hear you. If you can hear me, press 1 in the chat, by the way, anybody. But I myself, okay, you can hear me. I myself, I think she got into him, and I don't think she needs to control the speed in order to respond in it. Now, I agree that a lot of it is her responding to his talking points, but that's the moderators. Who said that? Yeah, see, it's like the moderators did that because they didn't shut him up. Exactly. So in that case, I don't think I think she did really well. I think he's the one that lost some support. But the thing about her not being able to garnish any more support, I think she's doing it, man. I think it's happening. I think in that short, it only takes one debate to see that, because people want them to debate on the issues. but they also want to experience the two people side by side. They've never gotten a chance to see Trump and Harris side by side. Now, when the debate opened up, it's not the debate. They haven't been asking questions, but the first thing she did was walk all the way across to where Donald Trump was to shake his hand. You know, now to me, that means she took the initiative and was very direct from the start, from the first second. I mean, you don't go all the way across to the other side if it's not a point you're trying to make, you know. And I think she made the point. It was, she's here to debate, and you know, all she has to do is shake his hand. That's the diplomatic thing to do, and then the fun can begin. And yeah, but everybody has, you know, people going to see it in different ways. So I appreciate that perspective from Dreadson. Hey, yo, are you there? Hold on, who is this? Andrea. You got to hop back out, Andrea. It's not, there's something. There you go. Hold on. Boom. You up here. Yeah. How you doing, Andrea?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good myself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Maybe her audio was out a little bit, but yeah. In any case, people have different perspectives on it, and that was interesting. Dreadson said he doesn't support Donald Trump though, but he did see, he kind of gave the lean. Well, I don't know exactly if he agreed or if he thought Donald Trump won the debate. Yeah, I guess he's gonna hop back up. Let me drop the link, as a matter of fact. Andre, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So what do you think? What do you think?
I disagree with him to some extent. I think, to me, what happened is the moderators, to me, didn't do a good job. To me, they should have cut him off when he wasn't supposed to be speaking. That allowed him to rant like he did. That was out of her control. But I think when she had an opportunity to speak, she slapped the shit out of him.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know what more. It's like,
that's when I smack.
Came upstairs. It's like they want to expect more from her, even though he doesn't give you. He answered no question with any kind of anything, any substance whatsoever. But somehow, the reason why his base is going to play into him is because he's still talking the dumb shit he's been talking. He didn't offer any. When he said, I have a concept of plans, but he doesn't have. He's had 9 years to prepare for this moment, and you have nothing. I mean, come on now. I mean, I don't know if we was watching the same debate. She brought policy. She explained to him the situation with women, which him and all the rest of the men out here who have an issue with women need to shut the fuck up about, because it's not your body that gets violated like that. Not your body. I don't know what more when it comes to immigration. He, like they said, they had a plan, and he didn't want that to be passed, so he got his cronies to do the job that his dumb ass couldn't do. I mean, I'm confused. I'm trying to make sure I understand. What did he do? What was so significant about what he did last night? I didn't see it. He did. He's been doing the same, just like she said. I'm gonna just say right out the gate, this is what he's gonna do, and he did exactly what she said he was gonna do. Continue lying. I mean, when he talked about the dog, the people eating, they're coming after the Haitian community now because he got rid of the temporary protective status of Haitians and Venezuelans. Okay, and the Biden administration put them temporary protective statuses back, okay, for the Haitians anyway. I don't know about the Venezuelans. So now they want to say all these Negroes here, these imported Negroes, are causing all this violence up in Ohio. Anytime they don't get what they want, some other group is always going to be the scapegoat, and it is never people that look like them. Never. Those people who violated the Capitol, the greater percentage of them look like him. But they're not violent. I mean, he's not going to call them violent. Them are patriots. Oh, they can go and tear shit up, and they're patriots. But everybody else is a damn criminal. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get an understanding of how people say some of the shit they say about what she's doing. The bar is always set higher for Black people. They know that. Even if she's mixed race, it doesn't matter. They set the bar higher for us because they want us to fail. But when it comes to his dumb ass, he doesn't have to lift a foot to get over the goddamn bar. He could just slide his ass right over it.
He can roll
because they don't give a damn.
He's gonna roll under the bar.
He don't have to roll on the bar. He can just slide right over it. He ain't got to roll nothing. It's all the way to the ground. There is nothing he has to meet to be qualitative about his position of who he is and what he's going to do for this country, let alone any damn body else. For him to talk about the guy, talking about first the crime was bad, like you were saying earlier, the crime was bad in Venezuela. And all of a sudden, the crime is so far, it's decreased. I mean, you can't have it both ways, bro. It is, or it isn't. Now you got rid of the 200,000 Venezuelans that had temporary status here in America. So where are these people at? Where are these not? I mean, if you look at his history, his record, you will see all he signed or wanted to do whatever while he was in office. Go look at it. It's out there. It's online. Every year it has something on there of what was done in his administration. It is out there. So you don't have to guess about it. It's out there. So I don't know what people are talking about. When it comes to us, it's always Black folks always have to prove ourselves, even though she's been the most qualified. What's his name? Ari Melber. He did a graph, for the lack of a better word, where it showed who had the most experience coming in as a candidate to be president of the United States. She had more experience than anybody, including Obama, from being in the government. Yes. She had 21 years of experience. The next one was John F. Kennedy. That fool standing next to her had zero. And they want to talk about what somebody has to be qualified to do. That joker ain't qualified to do nothing but run his damn mouth and vomit all that shit over America. That's all he does. He hasn't said a thing, hadn't done a thing to make our lives better here in the United States. He's a goddamn fraud. And that's why his ass is in trouble. Ain't nobody got time for his stupid shit. Again, crybaby.
Dread son, you there? You back?
Yeah. I'm having some audio issues.
Yeah, I saw that. Come back in. So what do you think? I mean, follow up on what you were saying, essentially. Did you hear what Andrea was saying?
Yeah. And I you know what? You made some really good points, because from where I was sitting, it seemed like he was all over the place, really haphazard with his topics. And then you made the point that the moderators were supposed to keep him on topic, and it seems like they're the ones that failed. And then she was really more focused on, she tried to reply to him and answer the questions. And in a limited amount of time, it's kind of hard to do that. But, from what I heard, she was able to answer the questions the best she could. But like I said, I feel like she was limited on her time, because she spent some time having to reply to him. And you have to choose, like he says so much random stuff that's so far off topic, she had to pick and choose what she could really reply to and still be able to get off her own talking points.
Yeah, but to me, she when they asked her a question, she answered their question. And if she had time to address that fool next to her, she did. There was a couple times she had to, she started out on her thing. But I'm gonna go back and address what he just said about guns and all that kind of stuff. I own a gun. Tim Walz owns a gun. That's ridiculous. And when he tried to say something, her being she hates Jewish people. I mean, why do you have to keep going over that? But when he talked about Black people and stuff, and she brought that right on home. She answered the very questions that they asked. She answered. They just let him run his damn mouth more than he should have. They should have shut him up. And that's the moderators get on my damn nerves, because they don't do their job. None of them have.
Did they have time
limits
for the response?
2 minutes.
It seemed like he went over time every time.
He was stronger than her. Probably more than that. because they wouldn't shut him up. It seems like, and they kept calling him. They should have never referred to him as Mr. President, or he's not. That title does not belong to him.
Right, and check this out. In terms of the competence level, how would you grade Harris versus a Trump? Because when I listen to Trump, what I see is like, if anyone else who's out there in the world, any wolf, they would see Trump coming a mile away. They would be like, oh yeah, we got us one. We got ourselves a sucker. Because he's incompetent. Look at how he rambles. You know, there's something dangerous about his logic, how he comes to make his decisions, you know, how he comes to his conclusions. You know, he never explains them. And I don't know, he looks like a man in trouble, if you ask me. Look at it. Look at his face.
Yeah. Yeah, like when she said something about his rallies, that he don't have. Look how he tried to flip it. I have, you know, my rallies are great. I have all these people. You're busing people in. He knows damn well he's the one who does that. But he's always projecting. How are you supposed to be a leader of the country, and all you do is project onto other people your insecurities or your lack of being this great person who you claim to be? He is not that guy. He is a fraud. He has defrauded who knows how many people from not paying them what he owes them. So whatever, quote unquote, questionable billions of dollars he's made at the expense of the people who he claims he's supposed to be serving. He is a liar. And he's a government welfare recipient. He's a socialist government welfare recipient. Anybody up there in that upper echelon that we as taxpayers have to pay that money for them to have their coffers filled from our tax dollars, they are socialists. They are government welfare recipients. And I don't care how you want to slice and dice it, that's who they are. And every time we have problems in this country, it is not the people at the bottom that make this country suffer. It is those who make all that, quote unquote, all that money on the backs of the people who cause our country to have problems. It is never the people on the bottom. Never.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And you made another good point too when you asked the question about comparing the two of them and how they sound, and you mentioned the experience. I mean, she's undoubtedly a professional. You know what I mean? She's got the dignity, she's got the class, she knows how to carry herself in those professional settings. And that's who you want, I guess, representing you on a world stage. Like if she has to go to these international summits and these meetings, and she proved that by walking across and shaking his hand. But what I noticed already is if you start looking at any pictures online or anything, they're using that moment to belittle her because he's still standing on that podium, and the way that the camera angle is, it makes her look like a child. So just in terms of optics, and you know they play that game when they take pictures and use it for headlines. In terms of optics, they made her look way smaller than him. And
but she is shorter than him. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's 6'something, she's 5'4", 5'5". What are you talking about? I mean,
in the camera,
not you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about them. They want to find anything, you know. Oh, she's not tall enough. I mean, man, I'm like, you want to tell people to shut the fuck up. She's supposed to look smaller. She is shorter. Stop it.
Right.
I mean, I'm so sick of these people trying to find every little thing. Again, the bar is set real high for her. So what was she supposed to do? Walk on platform shoes? What do they want? You know, still, what is she supposed to do? I mean, she can't stretch herself to be tall like him. I'm like, man, his little coward ass didn't want to walk over there and shake her hand. He didn't.
Yeah, that was a power move. That was a power move by walking over there.
He's a coward.
That was a way to assert some control by doing that, and she did that.
Yeah, and he almost like damn, I had to look at her in her face because he wasn't planning on doing that. He didn't want to do that. When she said, if you got to say something, say it to my face. He didn't want to look at her, and he didn't look at her the whole time he was standing there. That's a damn coward. That's a coward.
Well, I think his whole game plan was always built around Joe Biden. So when they switched out, it's like if a fighter gets his opponent switched out at the last minute, that's a disadvantage because now you haven't prepared for that and you don't know what to do. And I think with her, she does not allow him to improvise and do all the stuff that he normally does. and she can kind of close off the ring. I guess I use a bunch of boxing analogies, but she knows how to close off the ring and make him stick to something and answer it. And then when he avoids it, it's obvious. It kind of exposes him.
Yeah,
So-
but he had more than enough time. He claims he's the man. He's had more. He's not cutting no slack. I don't care if they changed it and put somebody, I don't care who they put in there. He claims he's all that and a pot of chicken. He claims he's all that. I'm the man. I can handle anything. It's all in me. All I can do. So no, he don't get that. Don't give him that. Don't give him that, because he said he's the man. He don't get no slack from me.
Right.
He should have been fully prepared to handle her, and he doesn't listen to anybody because he thinks he knows everything. And he got his ass spanked real good last night. I mean, she tore that ass up multiple times, and she did it the nice, nasty way. She didn't have to raise her voice. She didn't, because if she did that, she would have been considered the angry black woman. See, we don't need her in office. It would have been something else. So now they want to say now she's too short. I'm like, go, sit down somewhere.
Well, that's one of the points that people have always made about women in positions of power in government, is that women are too emotional. But I think if you watch the debate and you really watch his face, you can see when he got emotional and he started reacting. There were times where he would lash out almost, and he didn't really think about his reply, and he would just start going off. And even when he was answering the questions, and he was supposed to be in an easy, even keel, calm moment, he was still getting amped up on just answering some of the regular questions. So his emotions were all over the place. He seemed to be unstable mentally.
But she directed that. She hit him hard. He could, she unleashed that side of him. He got frustrated. He likes to control everything. And check this out, though. I want you to continue, but what you guys were discussing just before, look, she walked over there to him, right? Once she established that boundary right there, that there's no boundaries, I can come over here and touch you. My next question is this: who do you think will win in an actual real fight with some gloves? Or some hand gloves, something, maybe not boxing gloves, but just who do you think will win between the two? Kamala Harris or Trump?
Don't do that. That's not even, don't even entertain that.
She would win, wouldn't she?
No. Are you crazy?
No. You don't think so? I don't know about that. I think she would definitely give him something, man. Come on.
That's a crazy hypothetical.
Training, bro.
It's a crazy hypothetical. She just might have to just run around the ring and tire him out, because he has no stamina. He thinks he does. He has no stamina. You can tell by the way he walks. All you gotta do is run around the ring a few times and then pop him one real good, and he might fall down because he has no stamina.
She might be up to date on her training. I know she got the background. She's been involved in security and
Yeah, I mean.
Oh,
yeah, he has no. I mean, if people want to glean out of the debate last night that I'm still trying to figure out what it was that he did. His base is gonna love him. Period. That's just it. I do think she pulled more people over than we know, because it's gonna take somebody who can stand up to a bully, which is who he is. And I guarantee this is my belief, and I don't know for sure, but if Hillary had stood up to his ass when she was debating and told him to go sit your little stupid ass down somewhere, I think she might have been president. Possibly. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. She should have addressed his ass. Stop following me and sit your ass down. She should have said something to him. But all this, playing nice guy and all that stuff, and like I said, she was nice nasty to him last night. She was able to cut him to the quick, and he couldn't recover. He just didn't. So he has to go back to him being this damn whiny crybaby, because he has no substance. He has nothing. He can't offer anything to anybody, but all that stuff that's been litigated and relitigated multiple times. He has nothing else to offer because he's an idiot.
Break Room said, "My money on her. She looked quick." Yeah, exactly.
Me too. And them little quick jabs, and once you hit them eyes a couple of times, he ain't gonna be able to see nothing. Pop, 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 and it's over. But anyway, that's a hypothetical.
Yeah, that was a hypothetical, exactly. But it's okay to get that side too, because this is real. That's what I thought when she went over there. I was like, oh wow. The next thought that came on my mind was like, yo, could she whip his ass? I think it's possible. She could catch
Yeah.
him. I think it's
And
if she got training, I think so. She would get him.
She made sure he knew her name, Kamala Harris. Get it right.
When they left when the debate was over, the word came out in the media that Kamala Harris campaign, they challenged him to another debate.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me flip over from here because folks have seen the debate. If you haven't seen the debate, catch it. Yeah, you could check it out. Just Google it. I also covered it last night, or not really covered it, but we saw it together. But let me see now here.
And I wasn't going to watch it because I was tired of hearing his mouth, but I'm glad I did.
You kind of encouraged me to want to watch it again because like you said, I think one of the things we agreed on was that his base is already feeling, like they already support him and he got his people. And I initially didn't really think she got that much more support. But you said she made her point. So that kind of makes me want to watch it again because I think that is her task. I think she has to be able to get people that didn't initially support her. She has to be able to convince them. She got to earn the vote.
Yeah. And then she also, after the debate, I don't know if you saw that too, I'm not into the celebrities and stuff like that, but Taylor Swift did come out and say, I support, that's who I'm voting for. And all this, people hear all this stuff, especially, I think the thing that should hit home with any woman is how she hammered him on, we don't need you and we don't need the government in our bedroom, in our bodies. We don't need you. What do I need a man telling me to do, what to do with my body? And I especially don't need you, who is a sexual assaulter. You grab women by the pussy. You talk about all this harm that you do to women, and you're still trying to defame the lady who you lost that case to. You're still doing it. And why would any woman in her right mind want to vote for that pussy grabbing just every nasty name I can think of calling him? Why would anybody want to vote a woman? I don't care about, the men can do it because men don't think women, we don't have what it takes to be a president. But every time you turn around, we get caught in these wars and stuff. Ain't no woman starting them wars. That's all emotional. That's who's got the biggest thing to swing. And all them old fuddy-duddies ain't got nothing left. It's all shriveled up, and then you go sit down somewhere trying to tell women what to do and how to conduct ourselves. They just mad because they can't get it up no more without some Viagra. They need to go sit down somewhere. I'm so sick of all these old white people, white men trying to tell us what to do. Go sit down. I'm sick. That part I'm sick of.
Yeah, she held her ground on that part. I did.
Yes, she
appreciate
did.
That. I'm glad she said that.
Yeah.
Let's see what there was some breakdown analysis, obviously, and there's more, but let me see what they were saying here. This is right after
Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. You could not have two more different candidates with two more different approaches to the task at hand here. I had a television executive once tell me that everything you need to know about a live event on television, you can tell with the sound off. And if you had the sound off for this debate, which I'm sure nobody did, what you would have seen was Trump looking physically hunched, angry, squinting. I never saw the whites of his eyes the entire debate, shouting, constantly interrupting himself, not just going down tangents, but being unable to finish a thought, seeming very frustrated, very angry, very negative, and very tired. In contrast, Kamala Harris appeared to be sort of light on her feet, quite puzzled by him. The two-shot of him squinting and hunching and seeming to be having physical trouble squeezing the words out, certainly squeezing the sentences out, while she just looked at him absolutely puzzled by where it was he was going. I think that visual may be as much of a takeaway as anything that was said. That said, boy, what was said? Trump repeatedly coming back to the same lines over and over again about world crime rates being low, and that being the explanation for America having high crime rates. He said strange things like all Democrats wanted Roe versus Wade overturned. He said that it is legal to kill children in the United States. He insisted that he saw something on television about eating dogs. That was one of the weirdest moments of the debate, saying he saw it on television, so therefore he knows it's true. And so therefore,
Are you there, right? Can you hear me, Dress Son?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just curious. Have you heard any of these things said before, like this thing about the dogs eating dogs or eating animals?
Haitians.
That headline is brand new, but so she did say, like, the craziest thing I heard him say was, and it's a whole lot of crazy stuff, but the most absurd thing I heard him say was in relationship to Roe v. Wade, when he said that they have abortions at 9 months. And they even go so far as to let the baby be born and then figure out what to do with it. So he's insinuating that this is the reason why, they had to do reverse Roe v. Wade. And to me, that's like the most sensational, extreme, crazy way of putting it. But then by doing that, his base and his evangelical base, the ones that claim to be Christ-like, those are the ones that latched onto that hypothetical fake example that he gave. And they're saying, all right, this is the reason that we have to completely ban abortion. When really that doesn't happen at all. That has never happened. And I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's really all about women's reproductive rights. It's about the women that are having emergencies during birth and they need help. They need health care, and the doctors are scared to give them health care because they don't want to go to jail. And there's a whole list of other scenarios where abortion is necessary. And regardless of what we think, it's completely up to that woman. She's the one that needs to choose. That's just my opinion. I don't personally want to see it happen, but I know ultimately the government has no business telling anybody what they should or shouldn't do with their body. And to me, it's insane that he even insinuated that we're allowing children to be born and then executing them after birth. I can't believe he said that.
Yes.
And people believe it.
And you know what? And he gives, when he makes these kind of comments, he's also given, foreign propaganda agents plenty of material. Because this guy is supposedly an American, validating those kind of things. It's really crazy. Trump is foul. Let me ask you, if you look at it in terms of that, like he's with a group, he's American, so he's with the U.S. He's running for president, so his main job is to protect the United States, right? And the thing is that instead, that kind of statement, is that a statement a president would make? Are these presidential statements? He seems like he's every foreign agent's dream on a platter. To me.
Well, the way he framed it, like the way he set it up. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not to be into conspiracies, but to me, I'm trying to find a reason why he wouldn't be. After all this time, I'm like, how is he not helped or not involved with some foreign country? Because this guy, he really has a knack for saying exactly what's being put out on those channels too. He validates those conspiracies.
I just think, when it comes, they always say, them damn Republicans say they don't want big government. Okay. Except for the kind they want. They want big government in our vaginas. They want big government when it comes to, anything that they want to legislate as far as our movement in this country. They want big government. But when it comes to money, even though this is a 6-time bankrupt, fraudulent con man, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, we can deal with that. We don't need no big government to rein in all the terror he's caused families by not paying them what he owes them, let alone the cities he goes to that they won't even let him land the plane anymore because he owes them money for the rallies he's put out there that he didn't pay them for. They got all this stuff on this man, but yet he wants to get up there and talk about. Now there is some lady in Canton, Ohio. They said that's a sister that they said did kill a cat and eat it. That's out there. That happened in August. But this other stuff that they're talking about,
that's been happening all the time. I mean,
but they want to say she's Haitian. Right? They want to say it's because he let all these Haitians come into Ohio. So they picked a random black man on the street and plastered his picture out there. They say, see, that's a Haitian. He's, they're doing, that's the kind of stuff that they do. That's not new to us. Anytime they want to disparage our people, I don't care where they come from, they always want to slap somebody's picture out there and say, see, that's a Haitian right there. You don't know somebody's Haitian by looking at them. You don't know. Some people, some things you can tell and some things you don't know.
So what they don't want to do is talk about what people have been doing in this country already from the beginning. If somebody eating a cat is really the least of our worries, because they don't know what the people are doing in some of these hills, some of these valleys, back areas.
Raccoons.
They got places that are pretty well isolated. There's some certain, I'm not gonna say no names, but there's certain religious communities that are very fundamentalist and traditionalist, and they got everything sewn up from the school system to healthcare to the politicians, all the way up to the state level, and nobody is investigating what they're doing behind closed doors. And you know that they're literally trading out their daughters to marry each other, and we all know what color their skin is, and they've been doing this for multiple generations, and nobody's batting an eye about that stuff. But if somebody eats a cat, we want to be outraged. Meanwhile, there's literal human trafficking and incest happening in these places where, like I said, the government is controlled from the local level all the way up to the police. All of them are involved in those networks. And I hope I don't have to be too specific, but we know where these isolated communities are. These communities are pretty well encapsulated, and they control all their movements. They control who can come in and who can go out. And the people that are in there, specifically the women that are in there, will now suffer because they can't get an abortion because their brother, uncle, daddy got them pregnant. And now all they're really doing is building an army inside of these closed off communities. That's, for some reason, that's what sparks my mind to ask these questions about why are they so passionate about abortion. I think it's because they're trying to force their daughters to have as many babies as possible. They want to have as many children as possible because they're building up these communities in such a way that they have their own food, shelter, clothing, and weapons, and whatever they can do with that is kind of scary to think about. But they've got operational unity in a certain way that they really can't be touched, and that, I mean, that has to be addressed because everything that's going on there is illegal, but there's nobody to check it. So, but we're worried about somebody eating a damn cat. Somebody could barbecue a cat in front of me right now. I wouldn't care.
That's a good point. That's a good point, MF Judson. Good point.
It's terrible. But let me I gotta shut down soon though, but I wanted to ask you, have you all seen this one right here? This dude, this is Roger Stone's nephew, right? And he's being interviewed by what's the young kid's name? Oh, it's here. It's got to be on here. It's terrible that I forgot his name here, but Adam something. Adam, right? He's interviewing him for the Midas Touch. Check this out.
Probably
Adam Mockler.
The institution.
Exactly, Adam Mockler. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, Adam Mockler. And if you don't know him, go to his channel and check it out. But he's a young dude that follows this stuff. So here he's interviewing Roger Stone's nephew. And listen to these questions.
Institutions that are upholding our democracy, right?
I would say that the institutions that are upholding our democracy aren't upholding our democracy.
Expand on that.
What we see is a rise of communism all over the United States. And so if you go and look at what the Frankfurt School in Frankfurt had, they have 11 main points that they want to be involved in every single facet of society.
What's the definition of communism in your eyes?
I don't have the definition of communism all over.
Okay, so he doesn't even have the definition of communism. That's one of my favorite clips because
you see this guy. Now look at his clothes. Look at his clothing. You know, they have these uniforms on. I mean, are they trying to remind people of the Nazi parties or these little, socio-political parties and how they developed historically. I mean,
and what's with the black gloves?
The black gloves, exactly. I wonder, really, it's actually scary. But here's one more.
It's pretty interesting. Just watch. Do you trust Mike Pence at all when he says the election wasn't stolen?
I don't trust Mike Pence. Period.
Let me ask you, do you trust Bill Barr at all when he says the election wasn't stolen?
No.
Do you trust Mark Meadows at all when he says the election wasn't stolen?
No.
You don't trust the 60 courts that Trump brought evidence to?
No.
So it makes me worry when every single court, every single institution, every single person in America that's not Donald Trump or Mike Lindell are lying to you. And I'm going to go back to my point. When you weigh the credibility of these people, do I believe every single institution, which sure, they're flawed, or do I trust Mike Lindell? Probably the institutions that are upholding our democracy, right?
I would say that the institutions that are upholding our democracy aren't upholding our democracy.
Expand on that.
What we see is a rise of communism all over the United States. And so if you go and look at what the Frankfurt School in Frankfurt had, they have 11 main points that they want to be involved in every single facet of society.
What's the definition of communism? It's pretty...
All right, the Frankfurt School. But, this kind of stuff, it just makes me, just really, really shiver. But look, this is Roger Stone's nephew. So they have like these clubs. This is a political party, but it's like the SS. It's like the SS. They're talking about communism.
Well, they have to groom them. And that's one of the reasons I mentioned those closed off communities, because they can groom the children. They can indoctrinate them from an early age. And that's the only way that these type of ideologies survive, because these ideologies are not natural. They aren't really for the benefit of all people. So if natural processes
interrupting himself.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. I would say if these natural processes bear themselves out, then those types of ideologies would not survive, because they don't fit in a functioning, healthy society. So if we were working naturally towards a functioning, healthy society, all the people that think that way would kind of dwindle out. It wouldn't really survive. But in order to make it carry on, the only way it carries on is by indoctrinating the youth and making sure you got more voters to do that stuff. So
violence.
That's why you see them that way.
And violence.
They can't do anything without violence. All that stuff comes back to how the only way they can do what they do and have gotten as far as they have is violence against people, violence against this country or the cities you live in. It's the violence that takes place because he knows he lost, but because he couldn't accept his loss, violence had to occur. And they're talking about doing it now. They already got that out there. If I don't win, there's going to be bloodshed, because they can't do anything without violence. That's why they still cling to their guns, and I still think that has something to do with the size of their, whatever. But they want to cling to all of those things that they think somehow is going to make them free at somebody else's expense. We don't care if we have to kill you in order for us to maintain where we are, but we will do it because we want to maintain our position. They don't care.
It's pathetic. It's a pathetic stance, and it's desperate, but also just warped, totally warped, to have to go to that extreme. But the country, we have a history of this kind of stuff. This is just like repeating at different points in history, every election cycle, actually, right? Things to get heated. The tiki torches come out, or somehow, if it's not the tiki torches, it's going to be I don't want to blame the shooting violence, all of it, but it might be a mass shooting, for example. It could be, you never know what it's going to be.
Hey, the part that he said that he lost by a whisker, and then he said it was sarcasm, and then David Muir says, it didn't sound like it was sarcastic to me. Now you got one of his number one people out there who was standing up for him, that Nick Fuentes. Holland, you lied to us. Why? You said this. Now you told us you won, and now you're saying you lost by a whisker. They have blocked me. They have done this. They have done that. You need to go to jail. That's what he's saying now. I'm like, yeah, but y'all knew he lied. Don't
Right.
Stop it.
He
Yeah,
knew
stop that.
he knew he lied. You know, it was a lie. That's why they called it the big lie. What is? Because everybody knew it was a lie. You know, and it's terrible. And
but Fox News did say last night that outside of the way we said, they said she whooped that ass. They said that they didn't use those words. But they were going over it on one of them channels last night, and they came out. No, she put it on them. They sure did. I'm like, good. Yeah.
Cover that here? I think they talked about that here, Fox News.
On one of those, yeah. And they came right out the gate and said, yeah, she kind of put that on him today. Yeah.
Let's see something here. I'm gonna find that. Go ahead.
You mentioned the desperation that they show and the violence that they show. That kind of reminds me of the best analogy I could think of is like an animal. Like right when it's about to die is when it gets the most desperate and violent and lashes out in the wildest way possible.
That's true.
So maybe that's an indication that their system is dying. Maybe that's an indication that their platforms, their ideologies, maybe they're less powerful than they present themselves to be. If they were as powerful as they claim to be, they wouldn't be so desperate. Maybe,
yeah, absolutely. They're crying out. They're screaming violence, and everyone else is like, is wondering why they go to that extreme. But it's like projection. They feel weak, so they express themselves with this loud noise. It's always violent, always extreme, to try to make up for maybe the lack of interest, the lack of power they have, or they feel like they have,
or doing the work that is necessary to get what you want. It takes work to get what you want. Killing somebody is easy.
Yeah, and it takes compromise.
Yes,
to compromise.
They built their foundation. They built their base by sensational headlines and polarized news clips and lies and extreme skewed statistics. So the only way you can keep that base is by going bigger. Like the only way they can really get more followers and sustain their base is by continuing the sensationalism, continue the polarized politics, and it really doesn't have any substance to it. So the short-term gains will surely have short-term losses. And I mean, if they manage to build support or build a party by actually doing the work, like you said, then they wouldn't have to always one up themselves. It seems like they always got to go bigger. Like, what's the next crazy ass headline for them to be able to maintain support? Like, what's next? You know what I mean?
That's so true.
That's so true.
That's so true. These are some good points. Good points. That's so true.
They respond desperate. And it's almost like a desperation. If you just get them to calm down and listen, they will realize, hey, everyone has the same worries, but everyone's not dealing with the worries the same way.
Right.
They're resorting to these means while solving nothing, and everybody else is sitting back being held up, tired of having these discussions. I mean, whether they like it or not, you can't make the argument that the U.S. doesn't have the money to do some of the social democratic things like, healthcare, childcare, education, these basics, right? Food, lunch programs, if you want to have them. The U.S. is not strapped for cash that way. You know? But Trump, he seems to always make it seem like when you ask him about the social democratic things, he starts saying, well, before we can do that, we need a tariff to make money first. Then we can use that money and put it on this. We're going to make so much money with tariffs and all of this other stuff that then we can put it into childcare. It's like the country has already made more money than it's ever made, ever.
Well, he doesn't understand. Well, I take that back. So he does understand the levers of economics, but he understands it from a very specific vantage point where he's always looked at economics from the position of pushing and pulling others at the expense of other people. He doesn't actually understand, like when they mention that the tariffs would ultimately lead to higher prices, that's like economics 101. Like even Republicans don't, like traditional Republicans don't even shy away from that. They know that when you put the tariffs on, the prices are going to get higher. And he wouldn't even acknowledge that. So to me, that's why a lot of the conservatives who have always been conservatives are starting to back away from him, is because he doesn't even understand how the economy works for real. His view of the economy is so slanted and backwards that he can't even explain the simple parts and pieces of economics.
Yeah, he's all for me, none for thee. That's his economic plan. All for me, none for thee.
All right, let's hear what let's hear what Fox had to say. I don't know if this is the right one, but this says it was done 12 hours ago? That sounds about right. So let's see what he says real quick.
Fox 5's coverage of the 2024 presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Now, what we all just watched was, 90 minutes of these two candidates in a room with two moderators going over a range of questions for the last hour and a half. So let's kind of just go back to the beginning of when this started, shortly after 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Well, candidates walked in to the debate room at the U.S. Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, initially, when Donald Trump walked in, there was a big question there. The question was going to be, are these two, going to shake hands? Remember, they didn't do that in the previous debate between President Joe Biden and Donald Trump. They both walked in at that venue and then walked right to their lecterns in Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight, there was something different, though, right at the top of this debate. Trump appeared to walk directly towards his lectern, but then the Vice President Kamala Harris walked past her lectern and over to Trump and shook his hand. So, right off the bat, there was some gamesmanship of sort. Harris asserting that handshake was going to take place, and in fact, it did. So, the first question tonight in this debate that was laid out that they would have 2 minutes to answer the questions and 1 minute for rebuttals. In the give and take of the actual debate, though, that's not really, quite how it shook out, because there were numerous times where either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris said that they were going to need extra time, at the end to respond to this or that. For the most part, the moderators were able to keep this on track. But it did appear several times like the rules of this debate were given some flex in order to have a back and forth between these two candidates. So the very first question that started shorted after 9:03 p.m. was about the economy and costs in the country. And it was interesting because it echoed a debate from 1980. And that was a debate, with Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. And Ronald Reagan's probably the perennial question that has ever been asked in any presidential debate. His statement, Reagan, back now 44 years ago, was, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" Now, that is a question that has been repeated again and again and again and again throughout presidential elections ever since. Challengers have always used it as a way to point out what they saw as the incumbents' failings. Incumbents have used it to boost their own record and talk about the progress they believe they have been made. So that question was put to Kamala Harris tonight first. And it was really directed in large part as an economic question. Because, as it's no secret that while the White House and the administration has been saying that they have positive economic news to point to, and we might even have, a rate cut by the Federal Reserve Board by the end of this month, the reality of a lot of people's lives right now are saying that, while
I'm obsessed. Imagine AI production workflow.
The economists and the smart people can point to all this data that says the economy is heading in the right direction, that when you actually talk to people, you go to a supermarket parking lot, people are saying that their paychecks just aren't going as far as they used to go, paycheck to paycheck every 2 weeks. So this economic question is key for both Democrats and Republicans to figure out, as voters are looking at these two candidates, which one is going to do the better job for them on making that paycheck go further and reducing prices. So Harris's answer off the top tonight was, that she was raised as a middle-class child, and then quickly she pivoted to what she says is her specifics of an opportunity economy. Now, Harris has faced criticism in the past of not being specific about what some of her plans may be. So she talked about a tax credit for small businesses right off the top, $50,000 for reductions to small businesses. She also talked about a plan that she has to provide $6,000 for parents of newborns.
Hey, I got to get up off of here, but I appreciate y'all. Been a good conversation.
Yeah, good convo. Yeah, MF Dredson, I like that.
I appreciate you. It's good to roll around these ideas in your head a little bit and then get to kind of articulate them. Kind of helps you figure out what you're really thinking. So it's good to hear your ideas, and I appreciate your perspective.
Same here.
So
Same here.
thank you for that. I'm gonna make some moves though, y'all. Y'all keep it going. I
Okay.
appreciate you.
All right.
Peace.
Oh, I was actually muted. Yeah, thanks for the brother for hopping up, MF Dredson. You know what, Andre? Was that on Hannity?
I'm not sure. I can't remember which one it was on. I'll find it. I'll go out there and look for it, and then I'll hit you up. But I don't remember which one it's on. But even with this guy right here, again, they want her to explain her economic policy. And the video, the YouTube that you did on the inflation, people need to go watch that. They need to go. You broke that down where there's no misunderstanding where that inflation is coming from. They want to blame that on the Biden administration, and they know damn well that stuff started right at the end of the Trump administration, rolling over into because of COVID. That's
Right.
where all that stuff started. But they want to make it sound like it was their fault that these companies raised their prices up the way they did and have not lowered them since it's passed on. So people, if you haven't seen that, go check out V. Bennett's video on inflation. You explained that so well. There's no misunderstanding, and you need to put that in the whatever you call it,
in the search engine,
or in your what do you call it when you put in the link? You need to drop the link to that in your thing down there.
Right. Price gouging, USA.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna chat real quick for folks.
Kamala Harris's commentary.
Hold on, let me pause this. Oh, I just flipped over to it now. Let me see. Is it okay? Just so I can put it in the chat. But agreed. People need to watch that one and to get a fair understanding of what's going on, and or even a comprehensive look, a detailed look, halfway detailed, because a lot of times when
welcome in here to
are talking about you, it can be debunked if you just research it yourself,
And you keep referring to the GDP that it's the highest it's ever been. I mean, I don't understand how these people don't know that, how you don't know that we have all this money in surplus, but somehow this fool keeps trying to sound like we broke as hell.
Yes, exactly. What country doesn't make money just off of the fact that their GDP is projected to go higher next year? As soon as some economist starts writing about this and you have a history of that, people start banking on it. So mere idea, just the idea of the U.S. economy is dollar signs behind it. That's what people think when they hear about it, when they talk about it. It's a monster. And for some reason, he wants to talk about tariffs when the conversation was about childcare.
And the thing is too, he doesn't seem to have a problem giving these trillion, not billion or $1 trillion tax cuts. Where's that money coming from? I mean, where's it coming from? If we didn't have the base to support all that, where would it come from? He is so full of shit. He has no economic or accounting sense whatsoever. I don't care if he went to Wharton School of Finance or whatever. He didn't learn a damn thing about adding 1 + 1. He don't have a damn clue. He just knows how to cheat people out of their damn money. That's all.
I agree with you. Let me see something. Let me go to Sean Hannity, if this is still on. I want to see if he said something. Also, we know
I was trying to forget it. I was trying to figure out the name of the person who said all that.
Look at this. Watch the Fox News, Trump Harris shake hands at the beginning. Yeah. She took the initiative. He didn't.
Mhm.
She jumped on it. She was fast, like a she was fast, like an engaged person. And he just kind of slowly came out there.
Yeah, and you would expect for Biden and him not to shake hands. All the nasty stuff he said about Biden and his family, I wouldn't go give him the time of the day. Now he said stuff about Kamala. Don't get me wrong, but they had never met before. So I mean, just out of decency and courtesy, you should have, the hand should have been extended because you have never met her before. But no, he couldn't do that. He couldn't be man enough to do just what is proper and right, which would have been to meet her halfway to shake her hand because you've never met her before. After that, hey, we ain't got to do that no more. If we debate again, I ain't got to come shake your hand no more. We done, the formalities are over. Let's get down to business. But he couldn't even do that. Damn coward.
No. You know what? I don't see it. Let me see something here. Let me just type Fox.
Yeah. It might have been, I could be wrong. It could have been someplace else. But I'm going to see if I can find it. And I'm going to shoot it to you, B. Bennett. And then you can always come back and do it again.
Okay. No doubt. Hey,
there's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to cut it down. I'm going to shut it down for the moment. And I'll be back with y'all again soon. I appreciate the Dread Son hopping up and you hopping up, Andrea, as always.
You're welcome.
This is an important conversation, and we only get better at it when we engage in it,
Yeah.
So I'm happy to engage with you all and everybody else, the people that do catch the show. Share it with other people, get other people to come and participate, and it can only get bigger. And we got plenty of days to election time to inform people, to have this conversation. It would be a shame to cast a vote based on something that you don't really know or understand.
Yeah, and make sure you check your voter registration. I don't care if you're already registered, constantly go out there, check it, screenshot it. Check it. I check once a week or something like that, sometimes more than that. And I'll screenshot the last one I did to prove that I was active, just in case they start some nonsense. So get out there and make sure you're registered. Go to voterregistration.com or something like that.
Yeah, and as soon as I get my ballot, I'm going to also document that too for everybody, so people, other people can know that you can actually vote outside of the U.S. if you live outside of the U.S. like myself. Don't believe this thing about citizens. I'm born and raised in the United States of America. My family has been there since the beginning of the country. So I just happen to live outside and thank the country itself and, everybody for allowing me to have the right, for keeping my right, maintaining my right, helping to maintain the right of all U.S. citizens to be able to vote. As a younger person, I didn't take it that serious. And then when I took it a little serious, I still didn't take it that serious. But as a 54-year-old man who's lived a lot longer, lives outside of the country, has had a chance to travel and see different places and meet different people and see how different people live, I would definitely advocate for Kamala Harris's plan. And the money is not the problem. The U.S. has more money than anybody else has ever had ever before. So
yeah. I want to say one more thing too. If you can, if you're mailing your ballot in, if you can, get it certified so that it got where it was supposed to go, and somebody has to sign off on that, and they will send you that card back that they received your ballot. If you can pay the extra money to certify that you sent it through the mail, you got your card that they have to sign once it gets there, and it will come back to you. I would make sure I do that if you can afford to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about online. Like me, I requested an online ballot.
Okay, but you should get a receipt of some kind that your ballot got, online, right?
Yeah, it comes right directly from the voter administration.
Yeah, so I'm talking about people who mail them in. If you're mailing your ballot in, make sure if you can send it certified if you can.
DC Board of Elections is the one I vote through. But yes, so everybody please vote and let's keep the conversation going. I think As long as we commit to that one thing, we can get through the rest of this stuff. But by now, I don't understand how anybody could think Trump is better suited to represent the president, to be the president of the United States than Kamala Harris. Right now, I don't see it. To me, like she showed that she can master the room and school Trump in the room.
Yeah.
You know, so on that note, I catch everybody. I see Ralph coming in late, but it's too late, Ralph. Gotta catch it next time, brother. I'm about to check out. I appreciate everybody popping up. Y'all be good.
All right, B. Bennett. Take care.
Yeah, back tomorrow. Peace, y'all. Peace. One.
This is the joint where we give shout outs to all the peeps, you know what I'm saying? You know we couldn't do this joint without spreading some love to the ones. Yo, check it, Leah.
You're quite hostile. You're quite hostile. You're quite hostile. You're quite hostile.
Yes, we going out.
That's when I smack the shit.
Just like that.